Hello and welcome to this very special program. I'm Arfa Khanum Sherwani. We are here in the capital of Afghanistan in Kabul. The people of Afghanistan are celebrating the festival of democracy. They are electing their next leader and hopefully the first ever peaceful transfer of power. They're facing a lot of problems, including the possible exit of NATO forces, but at the same time, there are a lot of expectations. I have with me a panel of distinguished people from Afghanistan, Mr. Ahmad Joyendra, who is the Deputy Director for Communication in Advocacy, which is called DCA. And then I have Mr. Mateen with me, who is Deputy Minister, Independent Directorate of Local Governance. He is also a youth leader. Third guest with me is Ramin, Anwari. He is a young activist. Mr. Joyendra, I would like to start with you. The 12 million voters who are as enthusiastic as ever to elect their next leader. But the kind of incidents we have witnessed in last a few days, maybe 2 weeks, do you think people are going to come out of their houses and vote?
Exactly. The thing which was I'm optimistic about this, when the survey has done by FIFA, it was released just 2 days ago, 92% population of Afghanistan is willing to supporting the election in Afghanistan. They see the only alternative for Afghanistan is the election. And 72% of the population of Afghanistan is willing to participate in the election to vote for that. So it means that there's a strong motivation among the people of Afghanistan to go to vote and to have a transfer of power on the basis of the election. So for that, I think it's a good idea. Even you have been here for the last 2-3 days, a lot of incidents has happened, terrorist attack in the IEC with the regional office of the Kabul IEC, also guest house in the Western Kabul. We have seen when we saw the media, everybody is more motivated to vote for that. It's meant that the people of Afghanistan, with all the dangers that they are facing, they are very committed to take part in the election. The most important, the most important that the people want to show their anger for the anti-terrorist act in Afghanistan. Now, after 12 years, with the people has seen the rule of democracy and the election in Afghanistan, I think they are very optimistic. They know the only option for the people of Afghanistan to have a based system in Afghanistan is the only way is the election. So for that, the people are very enthusiastic to be part of the election. They want to have the transfer of power on the peaceful studies. So for that, I think the people of Afghanistan definitely will go for the election. They support the election because they see only option for the future of Afghanistan will be a fair and free election, which the people of Afghanistan is looking for that one.
Mateen Sahab, what do you think are the security arrangements, especially for the 5th of April, when people are expected to come out of their houses and vote for the next leader? Do you think you are equipped enough to take care of the security, at least for that day?
First of all, this election is much different than 2009 election. It's an election for us will decide our future, and it's a day we will say no to terror. That's why if we see the quality and quantity-wise ANSF, if we do an assessment, ANSF, Afghan National Security Forces, are well-equipped and have a good moral and have the people support with them. In the last 5 months, I was part of a commission to do an assessment. Our forces are ready to provide security, and we visited almost all provinces, and now Afghan people have faith to our forces. At the same time, it is the people, because they know this election is so critical for them, for their future.
Right, but does it also show that the way the terrorists are attacking these buildings and people, that this election is actually more important than any other election ever? Does this also show a sort of desperation among these terror groups?
Of course, of course. And as you know, what's happening in our neighboring country, and we know why there's been now ceasefire between TTP and the Pakistani government, and all the religious madrasa, what they have announced. Of course, it's very, very important. And for us, it's the first democratic, peaceful transition. In our history, we have never witnessed a peaceful democratic transition. It's first time through what we will elect a new president, and second, because this will be, if we have a bigger turnout, which we all expecting, as Mr. Joyendra said, there will be a bigger turnout than 2009. And that turnout, when we will have a legitimate government through and fair and free election, of course, Taliban will be reduced to a terrorist group with no political message. Their message is only terror.
Right. Mr. Ramin, you are a young activist. You probably are expected to know the mind of the young generation here. What kind of a leader exactly they're looking forward to? What kind of a leader do they want for themselves? We know that Afghanistan is a young country.
Well, to be honest, I mean, everyone knows what the expectations of the young generation of this country is for the next leadership. But honestly, I'm not a political person, and I don't see that quality in any of the candidates standing for elections right now.
That's very important what you're saying.
Yeah, but the important point is participating in election and practicing democracy. As you know, we have a very young democracy, and it's only the 5th time, I guess, including the parliamentary and the professional elections, that we are going to vote. So important for us is to go to the ballot boxes, to go to the polling stations, and to vote and show our intent and our courage to the democracy. But just let me point out what Mr. Joyendra was saying. I mean, I agree to most of those points, but being more realistic, I think there are legitimate fears among the people. Having seen the violences recently, in recent weeks, recent months, people are fearful of their lives, of their families. I mean, I've been in contact with people. They are saying that there are valid security concerns, and as well there are fraud concerns as well, which also reduces the importance of the vote. I mean, a person will ask himself, I risk my life and go to voting station, right, and then there is fraud, and then there are security risks. So why I'm going towards that?
So do you think for Afghanistan it matters that how many people really come out and vote for one candidate?
Yeah, I mean, that is important also for the legitimacy of the next government. It's also important that how the election is conducted, and how the governing bodies are monitoring the election, how the votes are counted, how the ballots are being delivered to the capital or to the provincial centers. Those are all important points that decide the legitimacy of the next government, as well as the stand that the current government is going to take in the elections, which is a really legitimate fear among the people. Whether Karzai is going to support any particular candidate is a real matter of concern for the people.
Mr. Joyendra, are you confident the election is going to be free and fair? We've seen 2009, Mr. Abdullah, who's again a candidate, he said that the elections were not fair.
So I can tell you, of course, this election will be different from previous election, because that time president was part of the election. But this time all the people are in the fray, they are different from that. So I can tell you that, of course, everybody is still, we are having fear of the fraud, and the election should not be free and fair. But with the participation of the people, you see, when you see these candidates going to the provinces, thousands of people, they are coming to the campaign. What does it mean? Does they vote for them or not? But the problem is the readiness of the people to accept all the risks and to come for the campaigns. This shows that there's a willingness among the people to have a wide participation of the people for this issue. You see, even which the thing was very, I'm optimistic about that, is the people themselves, they are taking their security of their gathering in that campaign period.
Right. Mr. Beg, you are a young leader. I'm sure a lot of Afghanis, young Afghanis especially, they look up to you. But I saw the list of candidates and nobody is actually less than 50. So would you really say that somebody who is of that age, I mean, there are some people who are actually approaching 70 who are presidential candidates. So are they able to represent the young Afghanistan? Well,
this is a good question. This time around, with most of the young leaders, as Ramin is also here, one of our activists, we spoke a lot, we discussed, should we, as a young generation, in a young democracy, should we have a young candidate? Then we said, no, it's premature. Our democracy is very young. And there's a transition, a leadership transition in all ethnic groups in the country. So we have to manage this transition peacefully. Afghanistan is a traditional country.
So you think the younger person wouldn't be capable enough to do that? Are you trying to say that?
My point is not that. My point is this. At this time, we don't live a normal life. We're living totally an abnormal life. And this election for us, it's not like India or European country, the democracy is institutionalized. It's a young democracy. And this election for us is much important than anything else, because this is a matter of die or live. This is, as a nation, during civil war, we have been humiliated. If a nation is humiliated, and we have witnessed how we have been treated in our neighboring countries, that's why we don't want to be again humiliated.
Right.
So we as a nation want to
stand up
rise
for themselves
and stand for democracy and respect every individual living in Afghanistan.
Right.
Now,
how about Mr. Karzai? I mean, he's been a very important man, not just for Afghanistan, even for America for that matter, I mean, for Indo-Afghan relations. Do you think he's going to completely vanish from the political scene? Is he fading into retirement?
Well, as I see, I mean, I work closely with him, and he's very energetic, and in the last 12 years, he had a big role and played. He's almost the face of Afghanistan today in the world. And I think he has brought lots of people in politics. He will remain as a strong man after.
What kind of a role do you see for him?
I think, well, most of, as a leader, mainly, because our history shows that even our former presidents, some of them remained relevant, and he left for the last 12 years. And if I mainly...
Some sort of a guardian sort of a role do you see for him, or what else?
But now,
I mean, does your constitution allow for...
As an individual, I say he will remain as a very powerful individual leader.
Another very important issue is of security. At least 24 people I spoke. For them, the first major issue, the biggest issue, was security. After NATO withdrawal, after the NATO forces leave Afghanistan, which we see the possibility of, how do you see the security scenario in Afghanistan? Do you think that Afghanistan is equipped enough to take care of their own destiny?
Well, I mean, for me, it largely depends on what form of government we are going to have in the future. For me, security does not happen in a vacuum. You need to have a lot of other things as well to secure the country. One of the important things for me is justice. We see today a lot of insecurity in the country because of the neglect that we had over the 10 years. We ignored completely the justice sector. I mean, as you know, Afghanistan has gone through the brutal civil war. And over the last 10 or 12 years, we had those persons responsible for the civil war in the country, governing the country. Actually, they had the most power inside the country. So, I mean, those factors always affect the security of the country. People lose their hope, people lose their confidence.
Are you trying to say that one community is getting preference over the other? Is that what you mean by justice?
No, I mean, I don't choose the word community because it's, I mean, I prefer to say a group of people who have been in the civil war in the country and who have, I mean, who have done a lot of crimes in this country. They have been ruling the country for the last 12 years. So those sort of factors affect the security of the country overall. And the next government, I mean, exactly the thing that you'd want from the next government is to take care of those fundamental things that ultimately affects the security of the country.
Right. But how do you assess the security situation? I mean, do you think, is that going to be a reality that the NATO forces, the international forces are going to leave the soil of Afghanistan? Is that going to be a reality?
Well, I mean, it again depends on how the security agreement with the US goes through with the government. I mean, I don't see honestly practical ways of Karzai signing it in the next 5 days that we have for the elections. So it will depend on the next government to sign the BSA or the bilateral security agreement. But of course, I mean, if the US and the NATO withdraws from the country, we have a lot of challenges. We will face a lot of difficulties inside the country. As you know, our army is largely dependent on the NATO. Our police is not well equipped and well mannered to take care of the security of the country.
Now, another important thing is of the financial aspect of the foreign forces. It's just not about the security, not about the soldiers. 70% of your expenses are borne by the foreign forces. How are you going to take care of your expenses?
Just let me go back a small to the Afghan national security forces. Of course, we can see the people of Afghanistan, they're proud of their national army. But still, we have a lot of work to be done with the police, because our national army is not part of any crimes, any smuggling, anything. But the problem, one thing which is make us upset with the policy of the government, Those criminals has been taken by the armed forces, they put in the prisons, they were released. 700 criminals were released from background prison. So those people going back to fight. And the National Army of Afghanistan will think, okay, this person which killed me, my friends, my people in the war, he has released. To whom I should fight? The most important point for me is the very important of this is that we should give assurance to the Army of Afghanistan. They are fighting for a case which is to defend the territory, integrity, and sovereignty of the people of Afghanistan. But with the wrong policies of the government, they are a bit disappointed. So the thing which is, of course, we have produced a report newly. The National Army of Afghanistan, Afghan National Army, challenges behind the financial sustainability. Right. If you go to that report, you will find what are the problems within the Army of Afghanistan.
But Mr. Joyendra, you've also been a former member of parliament. Yes. You know how the government functions. Yes. So what I'm trying to ask you is that how you are going to take care of your expenses, because we know that until you actually sign on BSA, I mean, this is going to be conditional even from America.
For the Chicago conference, it was committed by NATO countries that they will provide $4.2 billion per year for Afghanistan security forces. And also $500 million every year Afghan government will put to invest on the national security forces of Afghanistan. Again, I would say, I'll agree with Ramin, unless until we are not going to sign BSA, we are not going to have backing from the international.
But does it go against the sentiments of people, as Mr. Karzai tells us?
Definitely, because in the Joyendra, you see the majority, all the people...
No, signing goes against the
no, the signing, the people approved the signing of the BSA. But Mr. Karzai is going against that will of the people. Because the majority of the people, of course, we go to civil society, parliament, Joyendra, consultant for Joyendra, everybody approved that one the BSA should be signed. So now you should understand, if the BSA is not going to be signed, definitely the international community will not be fulfill their commitment to the Chicago conference. When the $4.1 billion per year is not going for Afghan National Army, we cannot have the money to invest on that.
Right.
So
because even the salaries of your police people are paid by international
because with the research we have done, the expenses of Afghan National Army is much higher than the expenses of an Indian National Army.
Right.
So for that we have
to... And also I'm told that thousands and thousands of people, Afghan people, they work in these NATO forces offices that, I mean, a lot of them are employed by them. So are they all going to be unemployed after they leave?
Definitely. We see about, I can tell you about 200,000 people were, by one way or the other way, they are working with the NATO coalition forces, with the international community here in Afghanistan. When the aid is going down, definitely they will be released from jobs. Now, if you see 200,000 people with, if we multiply it 5 people, it's meaning more than 1 million people. They are losing their jobs, they are losing their food, they cannot have the... So this is a very...
These are big challenges.
Big challenge for the economic challenge for the people.
Mr. Beg, another very important aspect of this entire election is engaging with Taliban. Whoever gets elected, I mean, for the presidential post, do you think that person can do without engaging with Taliban? Are you in favor of bringing them to the table?
See, anyone who accepts our constitutions and comes to the democratic process, we will accept that. That all the candidates announced that one of their policies, continuation of peace negotiation. I think lots of Afghans are fighting other countries' war. They are also sons of this country, and they shouldn't be cheated or indoctrinated anymore. Of course, there are problems, and peace is very critical for us, very important for us, and we should have peace. A dignified peace. And President Karzai has started one. It's a process. And all Afghans want peace and a dignified peace. Anyone who joins and accepts the constitution, what we have achieved in the last 12 years.
But Mr. Beg, I want to understand this kind of helplessness which I see, that despite these people attacking the people of Afghanistan, the property and everything else, the institutions, still Mr. Karzai calls them brothers.
Some people doesn't, probably that term is not explained very well. Why he calls them brother? He doesn't call those attackers brother. And he thinks Afghan youths are indoctrinated on the other side of the border. So calling them brother is saying you are son of this country and join and serve your own country. And he has given so much speech on that and have been talking on that. And even one of the leader of Taliban was killed in Pakistan because he was one of Mullah Raqib. He was from my own region. He was talking with the Afghan government. President Karzai's message was very clear. If you're Afghan, come back to your own home. And if this war is an internal problem, come, we will talk together.
Right.
If it's a regional problem, then it's obvious, and we see all those attacks are so coordinated. The Afghan Taliban are helpless. Right. They don't have the control. Recently, different names are coming. When the peace got a little bit momentum, the another groups came out, anti-peace, they start attacking. Right. They start attacking every strategic areas to catch the headlines. So the President Karzai's message is a very peaceful message, and we all have been through war. Right. And even, they know, like my father was killed in a suicide bombing. So as a young Afghan, yes, I don't want to sit in an armored car and have 10 or 5 bodyguards.
Mr. Ramin, what are your thoughts on this, that how to engage with Taliban? Do we make them a part of the government, or probably just ignore them or fight with them?
Well, let me begin by saying that I don't see the fight between Taliban and government anymore a fight that is restricted to the Taliban and the government or the international community. For me, it has gone further. It is now a war between the people of Afghanistan that they want a dignified life, and the terrorist groups and the extremists.
So you're saying it's Taliban versus the people of Afghanistan?
Exactly. So when this point comes into the consideration, we cannot ignore the people. The government of Afghanistan over the past 5 years has initiated a lot of peace building efforts, but the people have been missing from that. We cannot deal with the Taliban just by initiating a conference within the palace. We need to engage with the people. The people of Afghanistan, they are fed up of the Taliban. They all remember the brutal rule of Taliban in this country.
What do you mean by engaging with the people?
I'm more in favor of looking into what people want from the next government. At least we have 2 to 4 public consultations with the people, that how they want the government to engage with the criminals, not only Taliban for that sake. And majority of them are going for the prosecutions of them. So they are against begging the peace by the government.
What is there in the minds of these young people who are going in support of these terrorist activities? What is taking them to Taliban?
Well, just let me finish my previous statement. The next government of Afghanistan, if they want to engage with the Taliban, as Karzai is doing, for me, it's taking Afghanistan back into 2001, when Karzai was dealing with the warlords. They brought those warlords into the government, and now the country is facing massive problems. So if the next government is going to do the same with the Taliban, we are again going backwards rather than forward. You're against talking to them? I'm not against talking to them, but I am against violating the certain principles. Are
you saying that punish the bad Talibans and engage with good Taliban? Is that something which you're saying?
For me, there isn't a bad Talib or a good Talib. Taliban are an ideology for me. I'm not talking about the certain people. I'm talking about an ideology that is going through the public mosques in Afghanistan right now, that is going into most of the Friday prayers in Afghanistan. Most of these mullahs are preaching those values that Taliban are fighting. The difference is that they are not armed, they're just talking to the people, they're right. preaching those values to the people, and I'm against that ideology.
So you're saying that these religious people, religious leaders are inserting this sort of, poisonous religious ideology which may be harmful to the people?
Not all of them, but some of them are doing that, and government is just shutting their eye on that. We have had just recently this report from the north of the country, where a madrasa is radicalizing 6,000 female students into that madrasa. This madrasa is not formal. Ministry of Education is not approved that madrasa. It's just illegal, and the government is aware of that, but is not doing anything to stop that. Right. So when I'm talking about the Taliban, I'm talking about these sort of ideologies that the next government of Afghanistan should take care, and this is what exactly the youth of Afghanistan want.
Right. Mr. Beg, how do you plan next that, for the next government, there are going to be many challenges besides security and Taliban and whatnot, that, a huge question, a very big question of unemployment, a very poor health system, education. How you're going to handle with all of this? I mean, this also is one of the parts of the rebuilding of the country, not just security.
First of all, again, the first priority is security. And then, of course, security, stability. Unemployment of youth is a big challenge. And education, access to modern education is another challenge. But as you see, the Western troops are withdrawing. There will be less engagement, less financial support. The resources are shrinking. There will be, of course, the next government have a tough job. It will be very difficult. But already, since 2010, we mentally preparing ourselves for that.
So how do you plan to do the resource generation?
Well, if we reach to a peace, which is a dream for us now, we'll have security, stability, we will reduce our armed forces.
Right.
We don't need
and
that.
We'll spend elsewhere.
Yeah, expend more than 50% of our budget on.
Mr. Joyendra, another next question, which is very important for us Indians, is also whoever is coming to the power next, how that government and that president is going to take forward the Indo-Afghan relations. How do we see the regional cooperation going?
So I think the most important point we should say, Indo-Afghan relation, the course of history has been very friendly. So because now, within the last 50 years or 55 years, subcontinent has been divided to something like that. If you go back to the history, we can see even from the Vedic period to Mauryan period to any period in the Buddhism, beginning and spread of Buddhism here in Afghanistan, for example, during the lifetime of Buddha, the Buddhist missionaries, they came to north of Afghanistan, they established something in the north of Afghanistan.
And in the modern age, you are educated in Ahmad University.
In India also.
He is educated in Jawaharlal University.
Unfortunately, one of the very dangerous things is the proxy war in Afghanistan, especially with the presence of Pakistan interest in the region.
Right.
It's worrying us because Pakistan based on a fundamentalist ideology, just to oppose India. For the purpose, Pakistani have been many times with different stakeholders in Pakistan, political parties, parliamentarians, government, president, prime minister, everybody. They are just trying to inject in the mind of their people. The presence of India is too strong in Afghanistan. So if you are not going to work, then Afghanistan will be the domain of the interest of the India. Right. So what this kind of proxy war is going because mostly these fundamentalist madrasa students, right. Lashkar-e-Taiba, whatever the other names you can put, they are coming for that just to, they want to prevent the Indo-Afghan relationship. Right, right. So for the India in the region is one of the biggest country. So is they're about fourth major donor after 2004 in Afghanistan, more than $2.2 billion. Yes. They are building institution, education, health, parliament, whatever. They are working for the water, energy, everything. So for that, if we want to have a good relation of India, we have to try to make some kind of understanding between India and Pakistan. Yeah, right. The Pakistanis should know our friendship with India.
Which is, of course, a very difficult task for Afghanistan. I'm running short of time.
India should understand that our relation with Pakistan does not oppose India's interest. Right. In Pakistan should understand the same thing. Right. This is important because we need a strong government to have a very strong policy.
I have been an admirer of President Karzai's policy towards India over the last 12 years. I think he has done brilliant in that aspect. But there are certain things that needs to be changed, which exactly is the points that Mr. Joyendra is making. Our relationships with our neighboring countries needs to be based on our own national interest. And once we have a legitimate government and once we have a clear definition of our national interests, that's the time that we can build our true relationships with the neighboring countries. Right. And probably India also needs to do a lot in that regard in terms of its conflict with Pakistan and engagement with the government of Afghanistan.
Mr. Ramin, thank you very much. Mr. Beg and Mr. Joyendra, wish you best of luck, and we are hoping for a free and fair elections in Afghanistan, and also hope that the people of Afghanistan will take charge of their own destiny. That's all for now. Goodbye.